Hey guys, this is Draco once again, back to play more Modern Merfolk, and I seem to keep winning with this deck. So now we have another Modern League ready today, which is also gonna go really, really well. It's the same deck we're running. It's been going so strong that we have right now in the last three modern leagues, we have a score of 13 wins and 2 losses only. So this deck has been performing really strong. It seems like we have been swimming in the right direction. We have the current our way, and the fish is doing well in these waters, which is the modern meta game at the moment. We got some interesting suggestions for deck adjustments from some of the people viewing the content, which I really love the feedback and couple of good ideas from a couple of guys. Among other, Merfolk Joe mentioned that we should try, instead of the normal Vapor Snack we run, to try the Fading Hope. This is interesting card because instead of the 1 damage, which can be relevant, it gives us Scry 1, which is more like an interesting effect that you get some information. This can be seen as a bit more of a tinkery card because you can also do plays like adapt your own or Fading Hope your own adapt. Get some information, see a card deeper before you replay it, and many times we want to find a solution. We see that a lot against Tron, for example. We want to find the spreading seas at a certain moment. We want to find a force of negation against a combo deck, and this is where this little interaction could be really interesting. Other than that, the main deck is the same. We're still playing out Benthic Biomancers. They have been performing well. They get more into action today. We also have the Otawara on the which we are still really excited about as a land. We're still running the 8 spreading seas again. Really excited about that one. And in the sideboard, another thing was the concept from Merfolk Joe was to try out the Mana League instead of the counterspell. I like that idea in this modern meta game. This will often just be a counterspell because many people are mana hungry, and paying 3 extra mana is often just going to be just like countering it. And often, let's imagine a situation where you have 3 islands and a Muda Vault, and you want to play a Lord to pop up your team, then you can't hold up a counterspell because we have all these Muda Vaults and we have the Cavern. So I like to try that out, and I've noticed the really nice old border strongholds design. I love that original printing. Other than that, I'm satisfied with the deck. And today we're gonna brawl against a lot of cool matchups. We actually today tried a lot of new tests for this deck. We played against UV Control, Affinity. We play against Storm, and we even get to test ourselves against Hammertime. So let's see how all of this goes today. First matchup. Let's get into it right away. So we lost a die roll. Philly Drew is on the play. He reveals Kahira, which means that this is UV control. We have a pretty slow hand, and against Kahira control deck, the Lord might just be prismatic ended right away, which will of course be horrendous because then our Glasspool Mimics do nothing. So we mulligan. This is a great hand. Either Vial into Silvergill Adept is one of the best starts we can have. Against this deck, we don't need Spreading Seas, so we take one back of those. Play out the Either Vial, and we let him have the turn. He finds his Triome. He plays Prismatic Ending. Great play by him. Of course, that's one of the strong things about Prismatic Ending. It's just a flexible card. Being able to remove both the Either Vial and a threat early is just so strong against us. So he plays out a land. Leaves up to us. And he plays Teferi and ticks it up. So, yeah, he didn't want to give the adept the value here. We don't draw a land. We draw a Fading Hope. We play out the Lord. He actually knew about the Lord, but I think it didn't matter. At this time, we want to get Teferi down in a situation where it can't bounce our Lord. Now it's on 2. He ticks it up, plays a land, and he passes a turn. We want to draw land, please. No dice. So again, this seems like he could have something here. We want to get that Teferi off the board, so we're considering what to do. Should we attack one of the creatures at him to begin pushing damage in? But I think the right play is to attack Teferi to just see if we can get it off the board. It's such a strong card against us. All our tricksters and fading hopes and instant speed things is so hard without it. We can't even fading hope our own lord here to save it. Um, and because the prismatic ending he can play at an instant speed, which is strong. So his Teferi survives. We're considering what to reveal with Silvergill Adept, and we chose Svyelun. If he doesn't know about the Lord, he might play a bit differently. So he takes up his Teferi. He didn't draw a land, and now he activates his charm himself because he's searching for the land. He didn't find it, so he's stalling a bit here on mana, and we drew the land. So this is actually a pretty good situation. It's also a situation where he can't have a counterspell up at the moment. So now we're considering, of course, we want to get probably want to get Svyelun down now, especially as the adepts are making it indestructible. So even if he has the Supreme Verdict to clear all aboard, our Svyelun is going to survive. So we attack both adepts in, and we get his Teferi off the board, and we put down Svyelun. His turn. We're of course a bit afraid about when the Solitude is going to come online. That's just part of the game. It's a really good card. He doesn't find a land. We start by attacking. We're going to get information from the draw. We draw a land, which is good. He plays out Flutterstrand. And he cycles the Shark Typhoon to get a 1-1. At this moment, we're probably going to play a 2-drop anyway, so we don't want his Shark token to remove or block the Adept. We don't need the land. We're fading hope away the Typhoon token, and we can get in for 7 mana. We don't want to play the Master here because this is where he might have Supreme Verdict. And then we can Trickster and play Double Lord and go in for 4. That would be pretty good. He plays Teferi. And now we need to play the Merfolk Trickster before Teferi resolves, because otherwise we can't play it. And he removes the Svyelun. He doesn't know this, but he's actually dead on board at the moment. He plays a Chalice of the Void for 1, which is giving us the clear way, a clear path to victory with Double Lord. But again, this Solitude, it might be in his hand, so he might be able to blow us out. And if he Solitudes and removes one of our Lord, he doesn't die, and then he can Supreme Verdict, and we would be tapped out and needing to rebuild. And he would even have an active Teferi online, because we need to attack all our power in his head. So this is a tough spot. Do we want to go all in and commit? And I think actually the right play is to do so. Even if he Solitudes, he still needs the Supreme Verdict as well. So he needs to have exactly Supreme Verdict, Solitude, and another white card. Also, he don't know that we have 2 lords. He has not seen a lord. We revealed a Svyelun last time. So I think it's the correct to just go for the win. He has a Solitude. He removes one of the lords. And he goes to 1 damage. So a little fun thing about this is that then actually he would have been dead if he was vapor snagged instead of the fading hope. I will still leave it up to a bit more testing, but again, just to see if an example of where the vapor snag sometimes is relevant. I also sometimes gut shots people just in the head to get the final point of damage in. Okay, so he's on 1. He needs to have a lot of things here. We are of course afraid of Supreme Verdict, and we actually are anticipating Supreme Verdict. He can play that instant speed with Teferi. So let's just go all in. Even if he had it, we would be able to play a Svyelun and a Trickster. So we were actually considering should we just put some damage on the Teferi. Luckily, he doesn't have it, and we can go to sideboard. So good first game. Even though the Fading Hope was decent to remove the Shark here, it's not good in this matchup. We don't want Spreading Seas either. They have a pretty good mana base, so we can't really interfere with that. The mana leaks are great. We want to get them in. Even though they can't counter the Supreme Verdict, it's just a great card against control. We want to get Solitudes in against Solitudes, and Poison Borrowers is good against control in general, because you can play it at end step. We're considering the subtleties back and forth. And we are on the draw, not the play. He will look at the Benthic Biomancer, but it's good to have a 1-drop so we can put pressure on. So even though we're considering it, we're not taking it out. So we need to cut a couple of cards. We take one Subtlety out, we take one Svyelun out, and we take one Mana Leak out, just to get the right amount of cards. Now we're on 60 again. We need to mulligan. Bad hand. This is a good hand. And I think we choose to put down the Subtlety. Normally when you mulligan, it's a bit more annoying to have to remove a card from hand to play the Subtlety. And especially early game, it needs to be in a situation where we have a dominant board position and we can remove a Planeswalker and get the tempo advantage. Notice here that he, again, Prismatic Endings. Never didn't have it, so of course it's back to remove our Ether Vial, which is annoying here because Ether Vial could be really good. We are considering to play down the Lord, but he could have sided in Mystical Dispute, so that would be pretty bad. So instead we choose to put in the Merfolk Trickster end step. Now he uses Counterspell. It's good. That's fine for us. He is on a white mana. This means that our Lord can come out, and we even do the Mutavault, which is a good draw. Mutavault is great against control. He just passes the turn. This could mean anything. But we can't sit around and wait. So we need to put down the Lord and put pressure on. There's a lot of things he could have here. He could have a Shark Typhoon again. He could also have something like Solitude. He can only just bounce it. So in that situation, it would be good just to attack with the Lord and Mutavault pumped up by the other Lord. Put down the Lord. This time he has the Mystical Dispute. But again, we can't really sit around doing nothing. So we accept our fate. And we come in with the Mutavault and the Lord. And this is where I think he plays this really great. He Mystical Disputed, and now he needs to use his Fire from the Fire Knights to remove the Lord, and we're down to one creature and Tideshipper in hand. So it's looking good for him this game. In this situation, we were considering Mystical Dispute earlier, but the alternative play is to just play a Tideshipper and then attack with the Mutavault after. That might actually be better if you're really certain that he could be sitting with a Mystical Dispute. He plays Memory Deluge in his own step, and he didn't play a land. Oh, he did play a land, and then play Memory Deluge, having 1 mana up again. So we just put our board, go in for 2. And he has a Supreme Verdict here. That would be a 2-for-1, and we would be down to only 1 Mutavault. But this is one of the situations where I actually think the Waterlogged Grove is just a great card to have, because it will give us a bit more card draw to find some more threats. He puts Kahira in hand, puts it down. So a 6 mana 3/2 Vigilance. But again, it's totally free, so that's actually pretty good. Here we were considering what to do. Of course, we cycle the Waterlogged Grove, but we're unlucky to find 2 islands in a row. And we can't just sit around, so we need to attack. And of course, he should trade with the Mutavault to get that off board. Now we are down to the 2 Tideshippers. He played Narset. He finds a counterspell. That's of course not favorable. And we want to consider here, is it worth going down to 6 or removing the Narset? We choose to remove the Narset because it can just find a big, a strong win con for him. And then we play Benthic Biomancer. And the Benthic Biomancer is something he could consider countering, but instead he chooses to play Memory Deluge, which I only can agree with. So now 4 cards in hand. Prismatic Endings, the Tideshipper, which indicates that he has no Supreme Verdict. This is good for us. But then we want to go to end step and adapt an end step. This is where he actually can remove it from game with the fire. So we did an error here. We should have waited for our turn. And I was considering that as well. Because if you waited for our turn, we could have adapted in the start of the turn to see some more information. And if he chooses to kill in response, we can just adapt again to get the card draw. We know he still have the counterspell in hand, but at this time we're so under. He's in top deck mode. He has a counterspell, but do we want to sit and wait for the for the master? We played out knowing he has a counterspell just to get it out of his hand because he has so much mana that doesn't really matter when he does it. He can even memory deluge and find and counterspell at the same time. And it's not going well. Even though we have 2 creatures on board, he's on 7. Now we counterspell, so we have 1 creature, and we go in for 2 damage. We are so far behind at this time, and the Teferi is gonna pretty much seal the deal. He can remove our Teferi, and this is where the game is pretty much over. So we find a Wildlock Grove, see, can we cycle this for anything good? Another land, and they say, no thank you. So, yeah, this game, I think he played it really well. The turn where he disputed the Lord and fired the other Lord was just a strong turn, good play by him. We should have maybe considered the Mystical Dispute and just played out the Tideshaper and went in for the Mutavault. Then he would have had to, he couldn't have Mystical Disputed, he could have killed the Lord, but we still have went in for 4 damage. For 2 damage, but yeah. Okay, next game here. We play out the Tideshaper immediately on turn 1. This is of course a consideration you can always do, but in general, against blue players that have islands and no Ursa Saga and heavy constraints on the mana base, Tideshaper is actually just a really good, really good Savannah line. So let us get it out there. And now it's a 2/2. Now again, he could have Mystical Dispute. But again, if we are playing out Svyelun and he Mystical Disputes, we can't force because it's our own turn. So we rather want to hold up the Force of Negation, Prismatic Endings. We don't want to do anything about that because now we also have the Brazen Borrow to play. So we choose to save the Force and Svyelun. And actually, look at this. He did have the Mystical Dispute. And because it's his turn in his end step, now we can counter it. And we want to fight for everything here because we want to put pressure on him. And the Brazen Borrow was actually a great play for that. Now he's tapped out, which means that we can play the Svyelun. It is vulnerable, of course. He can have both Solitude, but he just used a Prismatic Ending on one of our creatures. So we're putting down the pressure here. He did have another Prismatic Ending. Rough for us, but we still have the Brazen Borrow, and we can put down the Banthic Biomancer and holding up Merfolk Trickster. Okay, so he passes the turn. Notice that he didn't play a land here. Again, now we're considering, should we adapt now? If we do, and he had have a removal spell, it would backfire, because then our Benthic Biomancer would be out of the game, and we wouldn't be able to get the loot effect. I don't like not getting my value, so of course we wait. We find a land. We need to put it down because we want to have both Adept and Adept from Benthic Biomancer and Merfolk Trickster online. So we attack, he doesn't do anything. We adapt, and now we draw, Mana Leak. What a great draw. Shark Typhoon, which is really strong at this moment because it can block our Brazen Borrow, so we need to Trickster this. Which is kind of scary in this situation because now we don't have a Mana Leak open. And he plays Sunset Revelry. Good play. Good sideboard card. I really like that card. He gets a couple of blockers in, and we draw a Mutavault. Mutavault was actually a decent draw again. I like to have that against control. We don't want to send in the Brazen Borrow because it'll be blocked by the Typhoon. So we send in the 2/2s, and he needs to. I thought he was gonna double block one of them, but he chose to just absorb as much damage as possible. And now he plays the Dress Down. And I'm looking at this card because this is one of the weirdest cards I've ever played against from Modern Horizons 2. It does a lot of weird things, but at this moment it seems like he's only doing it to cycle. So let's just ignore that card at this moment. And again, we draw a land. Not exciting. We activate the Mutavault. And now we're considering, should we put in the Brazen Borrow to trade with the Shark Typhoon? That's going to be the optimal block for him. But it still means we get in for 6, putting him to 3 with 3 threats on board. So it's absolutely still the right play to go in with Brazen Borrower. This is, of course, such a tense moment. We are playing, it's 1-on-1. He plays a Solitude. We counter it immediately from Mana Leak, and he needs to block the Brazen Borrow, and we go put him down to 2, or to 3, I mean. So he needs to have 2 removal spells. We find the Benthic Biomancer. No need to do anything about that one right now, but the Benthic Biomancer is a good reason to keep up lands. We activate Mutavault, he ices our Trickster, which means that now he's dead if he doesn't have anything. But, of course, he can Solitude. And he exiles Teferi. We put down Benthic Biomancer, and here we choose to immediately to adapt, because at the moment he was tapped out, and of course just getting it down is important. But he did have the Supreme Verdict, and now we are in a situation where we are pretty far from a good board state, but he's on 1 HP, so fine. We play down the Lord. He plays the Fairy to bounce it, which means that he doesn't really have optimal plays. We draw the Adept, which is a great draw. And notice here again, we know that this guy is playing the 3 mana counter Mystical Dispute. So we want to play the Adept first, because then our Cavern can be held open to do the Lord play. So either he'll Mystical Dispute the Adept, where we can just pay the 3 mana, or he can't counter anything. So correct play to start with the 2 islands to play the Adept and then the Lord, and we even drew a Trickster. Okay. So what's happened now? He takes up Teferi past the turn. We have 2 lethal attackers. So he needs either a Supreme Verdict or 2 removal spells. He does have Supreme Verdict. This game is getting more interesting, and we are on 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Sitting down here to wonder what we should do. The Subtlety, we can't play it in his turn because of Teferi, so let's just get the Phantom Monster out there and relive the glory days of the 90s. Look here, he plays another Teferi, and he blinks, or he bounces back our Subtlety. We draw Glasspool Mimic. This is a great draw, because now we can actually put down 2 threats. I'm tinkering a bit around here. And now we have two lethal threats. Again, putting the option back to him, saying you need to have 2 removal spells or a Supreme Verdict to close the game out, or to get back in the game. Notice here that we actually really managed to claw back in the game from him removing so many creatures. He's played so many Supreme Verdicts and Prismatic Endings and Solitudes that it's actually hurting my head. But he is under pressure. Another Teferi. This is panic mode. And now he's bouncing the Teferi. And here, that was a misplay. He know we have Subtlety, so he should have bounced the Glasspool Mimic. Because now we can actually, if we draw land, double play creatures again. We do Tidechipper, so that really did matter. And we attack for glory. Perfect. That's great. We are up a game. Match 1 against UV Control. So really, really nice. I can't say I'm unsatisfied with that. We had a really tight game against them. And we find another matchup. Okay. Really good starting hand. We love to start with the Ether Vial. Rise Tackler won the dice roll. He plays an island, so this could mean a lot of things. We just play the Ether Vial. Of course we do. That's the best turn 1 play we can have. Almost as good as Benthic Biomancer. I think the Vial is better. Okay, so Affinity Artifact, it seems Moonsnare Prototype comes out, Memnite comes out. It's a actually pretty decent matchup, normally playing against these artifact-based decks. Considering here what to do, we can't really get so much value out of the Tide Shaper at the moment. It is something where if you Tide Shaper the Darksteel Citadel, it just becomes a Sinat's Seod. It's still an artifact land. So he's going a bit off here with double Thoughtcast, drawing a lot of cards, but he's not really putting down any pressure. But we can't just sit around here uh, to do nothing. So instead of waiting for the Ursa Saga, where the Tideshaper is maximum value, we are considering should we just put in the Tideshaper from the Ether Vial, which is a 3/3 unblockable, and you can even then copy the Master, which put a lot of pressure on. So what are we doing here? I think the correct play is to say, okay, no Ursa Saga kill for this Tideshaper, but let's just put it in as a 3/3 unblockable. That's also a decent play from the Ether Vial. Again, we drew Svyelun, and in this situation, I think Svyelun is becoming a better play at the moment. So we might well just attack here. We want to get the Svyelun down, and we want to consider which land to play. Otawara is a bounce spell for 3 mana if Svyelun is in play, and Svyelun looks to be good positioned here. So we want to play the Warlock row, saying let's just take 1 damage. That's decent. The Otawara can be a relevant spell later on. He plays Ursa, Lord High Artificer. What a great card, again. And he plays Thought Monitor. So good sequence by him, and his deck looks good now. He got the Construct token up to a 9/9, which is why now the Otawara begins to look like a good card for us, as it can bounce the Construct token. But he is, so his pressure, his danger comes in the form of the Thought Monitor. Well, I would say more the Construct token. And we can bounce that and remove it indefinitely. Looking a bit at the Moonsnare prototype, because that they have multiples, so it can be used when you have Ursa in play for a lot. So he spins the Ursa, and this is where Ursa in this deck is kind of lackluster. It's really good, but when you spin it, you hit something like a Memnites, which is like an absolute do nothing in this situation. Through the Force, I'm not unsatisfied with that. If you play something like Nettlecist, which is the artifact that provides +X/+X for many artifacts you have, then it's a really, really good thing to have that back. We want to put in as much pressure and get him to dead as fast as possible. So we just play down the Mimic, copying the Lord, and we can go in for 12 damage, leaving him at 5. So he's dead next turn, and we even have Force of Negation and Otawara up. So let's see what he does now. Omnihopter. One of the drawbacks with this list is that these top decks can be a bit rough. At this moment, he's not really interested in drawing an Omnihopter. So he starts cycling to find a solution. We let him have his Mem Knights. I think the deck they're playing is really cool, and I like that he's testing out Otawara as well. But and chaining Thought Monitors and Thoughtcast is just so awesome. For 1 mana, typically for Thought Monitor, you get a 2/2 flyer, which you're gonna draw 2 cards. So he cycles again. He hits the Moonsnare prototype, and he can't use the channel effect because that's a discard effect, not a spell cast. So it needed to be in his hand instead of on the top of his library at that moment, or exiled with Ursa. So things are looking good. It seems like he's panicking a bit here, shuffling things around, trying to figure out a solution. He doesn't know that we both have a Force and Otawara, so we are covered on all fronts. He chose to Alpha Strike. So this is where we're just gonna bounce immediately for only 3 mana. Thank you, Otawara. Yet another job well done. And we are of course gonna block the Mem Knight, giving us 4 damage, and he immediately concedes to that play. So sideboarding, we want to of course instantly get this Skydivers in. The Brazen Burrows, they are also good. They can bounce his tokens. Force of Negation, a bit lackluster in this matchup. Fading Hope is decent. So we because we can again want to bounce his tokens. The Benthic Biomancer is not that hot, as he typically get a lot of creatures on the ground, and even just a Mem Knight, playing a Mem Knight will make us have to, put down an added token and all stuff like that. So it's not as hot. And as I also mentioned in my previous video, the Benthic Biomancer is just a card where, yeah, it's decent, but if you're in a situation where you need to cut it, just cut it. We mulligan one to 6. It's a good hand. He plays Ursa Saga. We put down the Fading Hope back because it's not insanely strong, especially in the early game. He plays Ursa, so the Fading Hope would have been maybe good, but notice that we also have both Otawara and Brazen Borrower as bounce effects, so we are stacked regarding bounce effects. Pretty decent hand from him. He plays out both Ursa Saga, Spring of Drum, Ornithopter, Witching Well. Good draw. Perfect. We drew the Tideshaper. This allows us to kill off the Ursa Saga. If anybody of you know, one of my favorite cards is the Avalanche Rider back from Tempest. It was actually, I think it was his Destiny or something. But the card that was a 4 mana Stone Rain with 2/2 haste. So the Tideshaper is a 2 mana Stone Rain without the echo effect that the Avalanche Rider also had. So when we do this play, I just love the Tideshaper being able to just kill off the Ursa Saga. But he's not done yet. He puts down the island, and with the Lord in play again, we are not unsatisfied with him putting down the island. Otawara is a decent draw. We can get a threat on board and even play the Svyelun. We want to play the Svyelun now because he has such little removal in his deck. Moonsnare Prototype is one of them, but he played 2 already. He has 1 card in hand at that moment where we did that. I know he draws a couple of cards, but I think it's correct to put down the Svyelun. And we didn't attack with the Tideshaper. There's no need in faking that because the Crab token is always going to block, so why do that? He puts down Ursa, gets a 7/7. And again, here the situation is that yes, the Otawara can bounce a 7/7. But what's the correct play? We could also just theft it with Brazen Borrower and put down a Master. We really want to get the Master in play, and if we needed to spend our turn by holding up Otawara, I think that could be argued back and forth, but holding back Otawara for his construct token when we are putting pressure on, I think this is a more efficient play to get it off the board with a petty theft. I know that now we're exhausting 2 bounce spells because Otawara's been played, but we are still putting him under so much pressure, and I think that's the correct play to do that. So he spins Ursa again, and again finds the Ornithopter. Gotta be exciting to use 5 mana to get an 0/0 flyer that can't block. So he's kind of panicking here. Again, this is where I think the deck he has some back draws. It can really have some bad draws if you don't have anything like the contract tokens up and running, or like Nettle Cyst. I like the decks actually where they run the Stoneforge Mystic to find complete. So we could just kill him from the remaining damage. 2/0. That's really good. And we go into the next match immediately. And that was a really convincing win against Affinity, and I think the artifact decks in general, we have really good matchups against them. We have with this deck we have a post board 6 potential bounce spells for the construct tokens. We have the 8 spreading a seas effects for the Ursa's Saga lands, and they don't have that much removal against all the lords, and they have typically natural islands. So I think it's just a good matchup. Okay, so this is interesting. He plays a mountain and a Ramonap ruin. So the first thing we thought before he played this Chalice of the Void is that, okay, this might be burn, a slow burn hand. But it's actually instead, since it's Chalice of the Void, we're thinking, okay, there might be mono red prison instead. So what do we do here? Chalice of the Void doesn't really do that much against us at the moment. We can't, of course, play the Ether Vial, but we have one down already. So we're considering, should we try to get him off some of the red mana? this is also because we were considering what this deck actually is at this time. It could also be like Storm that plays Chalice of the Void main deck, which I don't think it would be. That would may be insane, but we didn't want to play out the Master in fear of him having a Lightning Bolt instantly. So the Chandra is interesting. In this situation, it becomes likely that now we can see that it is red prison. And because we want to get Chandra down as fast as possible to hurt her the most, we choose to play out the Tideshaper. It doesn't get that much strong because they're mono red deck. Play out a land. Here we can both Svyelun and cheat in the Lord from the Vial and leave the Chandra on 3. I mean on 2, which is good because now the -4 doesn't work, so they can't kill off our Master. And our bot looks great. As Svyelun is indestructible. We have both two other Merfolks and a Mutavault. And we even have the option of double lording next turn. So this draw, you can see, this is where I really like the mono blue version of Merfolk we are running here, where you suddenly can do this kind of draws. Chandra, Fire Artisan is interesting. Again, a card advantage or card engine, but maybe a bit too slow at this moment. It can be dangerous. And they just find a land. That was actually pretty cool. They find a spell that can be played as a land. But again, they're under pressure. We have a great board. And now we can start hitting in. What we want to do now is we want to maximize the damage in this situation. As we have Ward 1, we know that we can't really get hit by anything, and Chalice of the Void is also in play. So we just want to consider how to get both the channels off the board and give him some damage. And I'm more looking into how do we develop our board. Can we win this turn? Then we should of course go for it. We could double lord, but that's not enough. So instead we just gonna kill off both Chandras and attack here. And this is actually something I just do this a little too hastily. Notice that I attack the Tideshaper on the Chandra and the Master on him. That would have been enough to do the other way around. So instead he would have been on 15. And that of course can be relevant, but I just did it a bit fast here. Again, we like our spot here. We even have an either vial up if he does anything crazy, so we can put in Master or Trickster. Mono red. I like his deck here. Pretty cool. Another Chandra. Trying to find a solution. And he's out. And he goes to next game. So what is good to get the Prism deck here? Mana Leaks are good against these Planeswalkers. Subtleties could also be good against the Planewalker, considering a bit back and forth. Brazen Borrower could also be interesting. The Fading Hopes is not as hot as they don't play that much creatures. Bending Bymans can easily be killed by a Lightning Bolt, something like that. And the Spring Seas when they're running Mono Red is not as hot. Subtlety, yeah, that's also because we were considering that they might bring in Fury from the sideboard. That could be easily be an optimal sideboard tech, which is why Subtlety is of course good. And then we just say let's just take out one Master. We want all 3 Subtleties just for the potential of them having Fury from the sideboard. Good hand. A lot of 2-drops. And we draw a Subtlety, which is fine. Magmatic Channeler. I like this card. Again, a good value engine. It becomes a 4/4 when they have 4 or more instants in the yard, which can be a problem for us. But we don't want to Subtlety it, of course. It's just yeah, it's more for the bigger planeswalkers that can do big impact, kill off a clutch like Chandra Torch Defiance that can kill off Svyelun in one blow if we don't protect it. So we let the Magmatic Channel resolve, we play out an Adept, drawing our card, find the Svyelun. We have a lot of action in this hand. Paretic Ritual, which means he can tempo out a Chandra. And this is a situation, for example, where as tempo-wise, it could be decent to get this Chandra off the board. So we do that, and we just remove the Trickster. We don't see the Trickster as as the best card in our hand at this moment, we rather want to have double master to buff up the team. He chooses to put Chandra on top, which indicates that he might not have the other Chandra, Torch Defiance. This is why we are considering right now, okay, since he's putting that Chandra up on top, wouldn't it be really optimal to get the Svyelun down? This is of course a risk, but again, we really want to get the Svyluns down. They can't just sit and burning our hands. If we didn't play the Svyelun there would be many situations where the optimal play would be to double Lord, and then we would just be sitting with a Svyelun late. But it's a risk, of course, because he can, if he finds a Chandra, Torch Defiance, it could be a problem. I'm laughing a bit because we're chatting a bit about him. He's talking and saying that why am I still gonna play the not gonna play the Yorion Merfolk deck, and I said no, I'm mono blue. So he braids Adept, and I think he's yeah, he's not doing well at this moment. We are so far ahead now. We even draw counter magic so we can protect ourselves, and now we just have a controlling board position. He's far behind, and he needs to do something crazy here. And we even have a force to protect ourselves and double mana leak. Chalice for 2, kind of annoying. Means we can't play anything. So let's get that off the board. With the pact, we play out our Lord, hold up the mana leak, beat him down. Now he'll be dead in next turn. He's on 5, I think it comes down to. I think he goes to 4. Yeah, 4 damage. 4 life left on this red guy. He used a Magmatic Channeler. What does he find? Chandra Awakened Inferno, too little, too late. So we're going to next match. We are satisfied. We're up 3-0. It's going really well. Now, actually, three interesting matchups. I think playing against the Affinity again just proves that this is just a really good deck against the artifact decks, which are running rampant at the moment. We have a lot of interaction. They do not. We have Ursa's Saga taken care of. I think many people, are fearing Ursa's Saga. It's really strong. We just have a natural good matchup against it. They played the island. We were actually considering immediately here, what is this? Could it be maybe Storm? Senor Lupin? Sir, are you playing Storm? And he is. Goblin Electromancer is a big indication. Of course, this is Storm, and in this situation, we are under pressure. This hand is not good against Storm. The Spreading Seas is no value for us. Svyelun is too slow in Storm matchups, and even considering here the Adept, which normally would be a great play, well, it's not a counterspell. It's not gonna stall him that much. So we're considering what we do here, but I think still it's too crazy to remove Silver Adept. We want to take him off red mana. Red mana is crucial for his storm components, and it actually proves to be the correct play as he has no red mana. He plays Barol instead. Now, interestingly, we can play Svyelun out, but we can also choose to Adept and Vial. If we play Svyelun, our Adept can't be played. But Svyelun is just such a strong play on turn 3. So we get that down. Sleight of hand. He's searching for his red source. Consider searching again. He needs to find a red source. He finds an island. So again, Spreading Seas is doing work. I know it's not the most powerful card ever, but we see this just effect so many times. In with the Svyelun. Here it goes. He's on 15. Baral is annoying. And we were considering what to do here. We could Adept Lord just to put out as much pressure as possible. Then we could play Glasswell Mimic on Lord next turn and attack with the Mutavault. So by playing the Mutavault and double lording, we're giving us the option of potentially, killing him entirely next turn. He's on 15, and with double lords in play and a Mutavault attack, it is a lot. So you can see here, if we go 5, 9, 12, and then the 3 from the Mutavault, it's exactly lethal if he has nothing and he passes. So this is actually really interesting. The correct play is, of course, we have to go for it, and that is to play either the Master or the Glasswell Mimic. But we know they are running Remand. And Remand would be ground breaking or back breaking for us, because Remand will also give him another card draw to find his red source, which means that he probably can combo off. He got 6 cards in hand. And he got the Remand. That's unfortunate. He draws a card, or he loots a card from Baral. And we're not lethal. So if we're not lethal, it's better just to play the Adept to see if we can find our Force of Negation. We have 2 draws to get it, both from Svyelun and from Adept. We might as well attack with the Lord. He has no red mana to burn anything out. No Thorn, which means like we only have to cross our fingers and hope that he can't go off. I can tell you for sure that that is a ambitious hope at this moment. You also have the grip shot in yard, and what they're often doing is that they're playing something like Past in Flames so they can replay from the yard. And you can see now he just goes off totally, and he wins in the end. So let's just skip across this. It's a great deck. Actually, I really like the Storm deck. I always been fan of Storm. So down 1-0. I think that was unfortunately he had the Remand at the right moment. The Spreading Seas, even though they were decent here, he's playing a 2-color deck with no special lands. So Spreading Seas are out. Bending Biomancers are also a bit underwhelming. Fading Hope is sometimes good because you can bounce the Baral and Electromancer and store them a bit. The Relics are great because they play Past in Flames and they want to get their Grape Shot back from the yard. And of course, Mana Leaks against counter, just to counter his things, especially on the play. Considering Brazen Borrower, but Brazen Borrower, then the Fading Hope is just better as a miser because it's just 1 mana, and that's actually something that becomes relevant at some point. Looking at this hand, it's automatic mulligan almost, as the Ether Vial is a mulligan. But if I was to draw the 3 blue cards, the 2 islands, and 1 Ether Vial as a 6 mana card, or 6 card hand, I would take it in a heartbeat. Play down the Vial, pass the turn, he plays Serum Visions. Relic, that's a good draw. So you want to just Relic immediately. Many of these types of effects, typically you do them in step. So, just Relic. He plays down the Electromancer. This is actually interesting. We are considering now, should we try to get him off some mana with taking down the Fiery Islet from the Tideshaper? But we rather just want to get the pressure on. In retrospect, I think it's better to do the other play, because this is also leaving us in a situation where if we go in for the trade with the Master of the Pearl Trident, we are in a potential. We only in a trade in this situation, and he chooses to do the trade. Okay, we put down the Master. This is where he outplays us heavily. Great play. Look at that. Dismember, which is free because of the Goblin Electromancer. Huge blowout. 2 for 1. Impressive play. The list I know doesn't run Dismember, so this was kind of unfortunate. And I would have loved to trade the Tideshaper from the Electromancer, but in retrospect, it might be decent. The Electromancer's effect is really good in Storm, so maybe we can stall him a turn by a Trickstring in his upkeep. We do that. And he has a lightning bolt. Yeah, well, 3 cards in hand. He didn't combo off last turn. We have 2 vials up now. Find a Mutavault. Moving a card from his graveyard. Again, finding a Mutavault is not horrible. It's a threat. And it doesn't seem like he have that much. And he can't really attack because of the Mutavault now. So I'm satisfied with that. Of course, the combo deck can always, at some point, just draw Gift Ungiven and start gaining value. But we have the Force open at this moment, which is a situation that favors us. So we want to have the Force up for his Gift Ungiven. He plays it here, and this is where we want to consider: do we counter this now? The Gift Ungiven is also good because 2 of the cards goes to the graveyard. If we let them go to the graveyard, we can control that with the Relic. The cards will be removed. So then we only need to counter one of the cards he gets into hand. But again, it's such a strong play, and he might be able to play something like 2 rituals and a past in flame from hand or something. So we choose actually to counter it. I don't know if that's the right play. It is just a tough decision at the moment. Gift Ungiven is such a good card for him because he gets value both of the cards in the graveyard normally and the cards in hand. But maybe because we had the relic out, we should have chosen differently. Okay, but we need to get the pressure on. So we put down the Lord. He kills the Lord immediately. And we drew the Svyelun. I can't say I'm unsatisfied with that. We attack with the Mutavault. And we need to, of course, go for the big play now. Metamorphosis. What is this? Is he going off? He is. He's playing a ritual. What is it? Are we dead to Grapeshot? What's gonna happen? Luckily, it's only empty the warrants, and actually only for 6. So he gets 6 Goblin tokens, and then he attacks with the Electromancer, leaving us in a favorable position. We can put down Svyelun, and we can block. So now we're actually kind of back in the game. 1 Mutavault and 1 Svyelun means that we got a lot of action. We got a potentially undestructible Svyelun if we can draw just 1 Merfolk. And even from the Svyelun draw, a 2-drop Merfolk would be fine from the vial. To find the Merfolk, we choose here to cycle the Relic immediately, and we draw a new Relic. But I think it's a correct play, because we want to get down. And actually, notice here that meant we found the Lord. We can attack in. He chooses to take, to just jump block. We drew a land. And now we are having a bit of a situation now with a potential win in this situation. We put in the Lord. And draw Adept. If we can do just a Lord more. A Relic. It's not going to do it. In retrospect, I think the correct play would have been to cycle the Relic again. But he doesn't find a solution to the situation. We put him under a lot of pressure there. So back in the game, it's 1-1, and we're playing the last match out against Storm. I think in this situation we want to really make sure that we have the correct sideboard, but I don't think there's much we can do differently. So this hand is fine. We have the Force Negation, and we immediately draw the Relic. The Either Wild would have been great, but I can't say I'm sad about the Relic. And we can start maintaining his graveyard, keeping it as low as possible. He plays Baral. I do not like Baral, but we can't do anything about it at this moment. The Adept, considering here, should we play Master in his upkeep to remove the Baral activity here, but that's also what we do. There is Of course, an argument for Svyelun Adept in this situation, but yeah, that might actually be a better play. But Pieces of the Puzzle. This is an interesting card. Nets him a lot of value because he can. It's like a Gifts Ungiven version 2.0, because he not only get 2 cards because he has so many cards he always will find instant or sorcery cards, but all the rest of the cards goes into the graveyard. So he also stacked up his graveyard. Again, considering here, is this worth countering? Maybe it isn't because of the relic, but it's just such a strong card. So we choose to force it. We want to be a bit of aggressive with our forces, so we get to stall him. Play it out Adept, and we find another relic. Might as well play it. We're just considering, should we just cycle the other relic instead? Maybe we can find another force, but it's just so low chance of finding a force of negation. We only have 2 left in the deck of 49 cards. He plays a Consider, he plays a Periodic Ritual, Metamorphosis, so now he goes off. And we can't really do anything about it. He's going off, he's generating a lot of mana, and his Storm count is going up 7. So that's 14 Goblin tokens. Yeah, not good for us. So this is a situation that's interesting. We do have Island Walk from the Lord. Should have drew a land. Drawing a land there would have been really great, as it would have allowed us to become have a Mutavault attack as well. That would give him 9 damage. The Lord will also give him 6 damage. And then in that situation, because we decide to play the Lord, we might as well use the Mutavault. Mystical Dispute. That was a clutch one at the moment. And there was his one of the only cards in hand. So really unfortunate. That was our chance of winning the game, because now he can kill us in 2 turns. He's on 15 now, and there's no way we can kill him in this turn, and there's no way we can survive an attack from 15 one-powered creatures. Unfortunately, Storm got us. We're just dying desperately to find a solution, and we didn't. But we're still 3-1 with a decent scoreline. So let's get into the last game. And last game is against Hammertime. And I love playing against Hammertime because this is actually something I do really rarely. I don't know why. It's the most popular deck, but I almost never face it in the modern leagues. So I was excited actually to try to play it here. I'm suspecting it for my Saturday practice that there might be Hammertime decks. And we can see, boom, Segata Sage instantly. That's a good card. And this is actually a really cool game. We have a good hand. We can start by playing down Ethervile. We also draw the Spreading Seas. I always like to have Spreading Seas against these types of decks, especially if they play Wizard Saga. Come on, there it is. And he just passes. Wow. Slow draw from the Hammertime. I like it. Force, good draw from us. We try to kill off the Wizard Saga, and unfortunately Blacksmith Skills saves him. I checked the deck list afterwards. They apparently start running 2 typically in the main deck, which gives a permanent hexproof and indestructible. So yeah, unfortunately they had a perfect solution for the card in that situation. But they still have a slow draw, and we can't say that we are unhappy with them being slow. We draw another Spreading Seas. Interesting. Yes, they can generate a token, a contract token. That's of course a part of the game, but it's still a stone rain that cycles. So let's do it. One of the things I'm a bit frustrated with in this specific situation is that we can't really seem to draw the 3rd land. I would love to hold Otawara in hand here, but I don't think it's correct to stay on 2 lanes. We could also try to put in the Svyelun Adept to find a land. But the Trickster is so good against the Construct token. It'll kill it right away, and he might just play the Hammer, putting it on the Construct token at the next turn, which means that if we paid the Silver at it, he would have a crazy good attack. He plays Pure Steel Paladin. This, of course, is opening up for a lot of crazy things. It means that he can put on a lot of pressure, and he can put on when he have Wellcraft, he can equipment his hammer without any other issues. And he plays the Shadow Spear. I think what we do here is that we counter it. This is hard to counter it because the Trickster is such a good card in this matchup as it kills his Construct token. But again, this keeps him off Metalcraft, which is hugely important against Paladin. It's also lifelink. Actually, the spear is so strong against us because we want to kill him on through damage. And we play down the Svyelun. Actually, we should have attacked first because he's not going to block anyways. So now we do. That's a bit of a misplay, but I was just considering not attacking. But then I played the Svyelun saying, oh, he might not want to trade anyways with anything. You want to get Metalcraft up and running. He passed the turn. We're considering what to do now. He can put in another Construct token. And actually, one of the things that's coming up is that my brain made a really weird loop at some point, which meant that I made a critical error. So stay tuned for that one. But for now, we have a decent board position. We want to just attack in. We have the option of adapting at some point if he blocks the Benthic Biomancer. We draw cards from the Svyelun, and the Adept has a decent attack. And we can even Trickster down something if something happens here. Nothing happens. We choose to adapt the Benthic Biomancer. Do we discard the island or the Ether Vial? It doesn't really matter. But taking out the Vial. We're not going to play it anyways. We rather want a blocker. If maybe he plays something and equips a hammer. Okay, so now he makes another Construct token. And he makes another Construct token. So he's... and now he can find the hammer. Puts in the hammer, equips it on Pure Steel Paladin, or tries to. This is where we need to act. One of the reasons why this is a good play is that if we do it afterwards, he can use his equip ability. But if we do it at instant speed now, the metal-crafted equipment effect for 0 mana is going to get disabled by Trickster. Hallelujah, Trickster. This is just a really, really strong play. But we are still heading down a lot of creatures now. A 2/6/6 are coming in. And in this situation, he's on 10 damage. We need to find a Lord. We have 2 draws to find the Lord. We can either draw the Lord, or we can draw it from Svyelun and cheat it in. But in my brain, this is where I made the error. First of all, we're just going to block here to make sure we don't take too much damage. But in my brain, we need to find a Lord to win. That's the only thing. But in my brain, I was like, I can also find a Glasspool Mimic to bounce it down on the Adept to find the Lord. But I find an Adept, which I could have played with the Ether Vial if it was on 2. And by attacking here, now we can't win by attacking all creatures in to him. But I think actually this was a tight play because the other way around, you would have been forced to gamble and attack all creatures in. And if we done that, we would have found the Lord of Atlantis from top, and we would have cheated in from Ether Vial. But he's on 10. We have blockers. He's pulling in a lot of pressure now. We need to double block. Actually, we need to triple block, and we can't tap with a Motor Vault. So we triple block now, under pressure. But again, he's on 10. We got a Lord and 2 Motor Vaults. So he's technically dead on board. if he doesn't have anything more now. If you can't re-equip the Colossus Hammer, I have another hammer. You can see if he has a hammer now, he can just play it and equip it on the 7/7. But he doesn't. He's one card in hand. And now he puts lures into hand. Which means that we pretty much got it here. There's not many cards he could have at this moment pre-board. So we play down the Lord. Activate both Motor Vaults. And we got it. This one was tight. Okay, up 1-0 against Hammertime. This is where Steven Skydiver is at its best. Let's get it in there and stay. Brazen Burrow is also good because it can not only bounce a construct token, which he can create many of, it can also bounce the creature with the hammer on it, and it can also be a threat in the late game. What a horrible hand! We instantaneously mulligan into a good hand, and we keep it. We like to what we see here. We have Ethervile, we have Spreading Seas. We don't need the Cavern though. They don't really have counter magic. Here's what we're considering what to put back, but the Cavern is fine, I think, to remove at this time. So he puts in Esper Sentinel. This is a good play. And generally, I gotta say I really like Esper Sentinel. It's a really strong card. And in this situation, what we need to consider always as Merfolk players is, do we give him the free card and putting down the Ethervile, or do we wait? Last time I played against the Affinity, one of the artifact deck that played white, he was down cards, which meant that he was mulligan to 5, which meant we didn't want to give him back in the game. In this situation, he kept 7 cards. And the Ethervile is going to burn in hand if we stall too long. Also, this Hammertime deck is a combo deck. It can go off so fast. So we want to get the Ethervile down. Unluckily for us, he plays the Pithing Needle and names Ethervile. So it kind of backfires, giving him the free card. And he even plays Sigarda's 8. Great turn 2 by him. And we take a damage. So our Ethervile is offline. He plays a Mem Knight. He plays 2 Mem Knights. I remember first time I saw Mem Knight. This was, of course, many years ago when it first got printed. I was like, it's a free 1/1. That's insane. I think the power from now comes that it's in an artifact. We play the Lord. Not a really interesting play at this moment. But the Thieving Skydiver noticed that we drew that. Great draw. We'd like to have that in this matchup. And what we hope for is now that maybe if he attacks with Esper Sentinel and puts on Colossal Hammer instant speed, we could block. Let's imagine he could have done that instant speed, which was a weird play. That's why we're considering so much what's going on here. If he were attacking and we blocked, we would bait him into putting down the hammer, putting it on the Esper Sentinel, and next turn we could Skydiver taking his Esper Sentinel. But what does it mean that he does it pre-combat? It might mean that he have 2 hammers. But if he had 2 hammers, why don't he attack with his entire team? Because then it would have actually killed us. Because he would put it on a 2 creature not being blocked. Now we consider if it's the hexproof thing, the one that the blacksmith thing that gives plus 2 to hexproof. And if it's that card he has up now, well, then we're just boned. Then we have no chance because then we can't either Skydiver or Brazen Burrow or anything. So I think the correct play is here to let it resolve, let it hit us. If he had another Glass Hammer, that would have been a bad play by him, attacking like that and not attacking with all creatures. And if he has the hexproof thing, then we can't really do anything about it. We need just to we need to not overthink this and try to take the Skydiver. The great thing about taking the Skydiver is that you take this Esper Sentinel, and he can't re-equip the Colossus Hammer. We can of course also take the hammer, but then he would still have the Esper Sentinel. But he needs to pay 8 mana or get that metal crafted pure steel paladin dude. But actually, he didn't have the blacksmith thing, so our thieving Skydiver just stole an 11/11. That's 3 mana worth of magic card right there. And I gotta say, applause for Esper Sentinel. So we just pass here. No need to put our Lord of Atlantis at risk. And now, of course, he's so far behind. I don't think he can handle us having such a strong creature stolen from him with a Colossus Hammer on board. If he does, he can of course draw the Pustil Paladin now and re-equip the Colossus Hammer. But I think in his mind, if he doesn't draw it exactly there, he just concedes, and that's exactly what he does. So we managed to get another beautiful, good Modern League run. Unfortunately, not a trophy, but it was a 4-1. And again, as I told you earlier, this deck has been running really smoothly. We are 13-2 in games over the last 3 Modern Leagues. So I gotta say that's a pretty crazy win rate. This configuration is just really strong. The 2 tests we did, if we look back at those, the Fading Hopes, I'm still unsure of. I'm gonna run one more test with them. I like the fact that I can do some tinkering and bouncing some Silvergill Adepts or Merfolk Tricksters to see if I can find a solution at some point and rebuy an effect. But I do believe that maybe the 1 point of damage from the Vapor Snag, especially the way I play this deck, where I want to just play a lot of Lords at some point and then exactly lethal them, then it's typically about doing the correct math. And if we sometime we saw that in the UV matchup, there was just 2 times where they were on exactly 1 life. So that's still a consideration. Mana League, they performed really well, but I don't think there was any situation where this was outperforming Counterspell today. They just seemed like for this run, it was kind of the same. But I really like the idea, and I'm gonna run that one more time. I think there could be many situations where you could experience this being better than the Counterspell. Other than that, I'm really satisfied with the deck. So thank you for tuning in. The fish keep speeding down. Now we've pretty much crossed off all the matchups on our list, and it looks good all around. I'm pretty satisfied. We're still, of course, unfavored against the Ragavan decks, so we want to play more against those. But other than that, stay tuned for more content, guys, and like that you're enjoying some of the things I've been doing here. I'll put in a link for my last 4-1, which I recorded, I think, day before yesterday. So if you haven't checked that one out, check it out. And you can also subscribe for my YouTube channel. So thanks for watching. Have a great day.